If you're watching this, I'm guessing you've hit a pothole and damaged your car. This is exactly what happened to me, and in the process of claiming compensation, I've discovered a loophole that I believe many councils are using to deny thousands of claims, costing you and me, the British public, millions of pounds every year. Here's the scenario, and remember, this is completely truthful and based on my own personal experience. January 2023, driving along the B4100 from Aynhoe towards Banbury. This is a national speed limit road, single carriageway and mostly unlit. On the approach and L bridge there are multiple holes varying in size along a half-mile stretch. Around 5:30 p.m, driving at 50 miles an hour and avoiding the worst of the holes, a hole some 160 centimetres long, 60 centimetres wide and 7 centimetres deep appeared out of nowhere. Remember, this is an unlit road, and at this time of year it would have been pitch black. There were no warnings, no signs or any markings on the road to warn of the damage or the danger. By the time it was visible, it was too late, and due to the size of the hole, there was no way of avoiding it. The only option would have been to cross double white lines into oncoming traffic on the approach to a blind summit. The car struck the hole with an almighty bang. It immediately burst the front tyre, buckled the front wheel, bulged the rear tyre and cracked the rear wheel. In fact, these are the wheels that have had to come off the car. Inside, trim was dislodged and my mobile, which was securely held in a mount on the windscreen, was dislodged and thrown into the rear passenger footwell. In total, the damage cost more than £2,500. This, I'm sure, is something many of you will have experienced, given there are more than 500,000 potholes in the UK in 2021, according to The Guardian. And I'm also sure many of you will have experienced a denied claim for compensation. And this is where our story gets interesting. Councils are responsible for the condition of the roads. However, they cannot monitor every inch of every road, every minute of every day. That is simply impossible. Therefore, from a legal standpoint, there is no automatic right to compensation when damage is caused. By law and under the Highways Act, councils have a duty to inspect and maintain the highway. It has a statutory duty to keep the public highway free from danger to all users. Therefore, in order to be successful with the claim, you need to prove three things. 1. The pothole caused the damage. 2. They failed to maintain the required level of inspections, and 3. They didn't carry out the necessary repairs in accordance with the policy recommendations. Point 1 sounds easy. However, if you hit a hole and don't notice anything for a couple of weeks, it's very easy to argue that something else in that period caused the damage. Also bear in mind that you have to prove the damage wasn't there already. It's points 2 and 3 where things get really interesting, and where I've evidence to believe that councils are using process to get out of paying compensation. Let's start with point 2. Maintain the required level of inspections. Roads in the UK are given different classifications, and depending on classification they are monitored at different intervals. So the B4100 in my example is a main distributor route and is inspected monthly. On top of this, there are reporting services like fixmystreet.com where you can report damage to the council and they can respond to it. In my experience, the council did provide evidence that the road had been inspected, but this is where things start to get questionable. This is the inspection report for the B4100, completed on the 20th of December 2022, just days before I hit this hole. The B4100 is just one of 24 roads inspected that day, meaning that over a typical 8-hour shift, 3 roads per hour were inspected. And from the report you can clearly see that the B4100 is shown to have 0 defects. How, might you ask, can this be possible? Well, in order for a hole to qualify as a defect, there are specific measurements that a hole must exceed before action is taken, and these are dependent on the classification of the road. According to the Highway Safety Inspection Manual 2019, for a hole to be considered a defect on a main distributor route, it must be 40mm deep or greater, and a distance not greater than 1,200mm in the direction of travel, but to be 300mm in width. This hole clearly was, measuring 70mm in depth, 1,600mm in length, and 700mm wide it was very nearly twice the size required. Now, it could be argued that on the day of inspection the hole wasn't of this size. However, let's go back to the report. The report shows 0 defects but doesn't show any of the 30 plus holes in this half-mile stretch were measured, and without physically taking measurements you have nothing to physically base the report on. It'd be like the police saying you were speeding simply by watching you drive by. But let's look even closer. Notice there is also the opportunity for the inspector to put down preemptive repairs. Again, there was nothing entered here despite the appalling condition of the road. On the road marking scale, note this does not indicate what is good or bad, a middling score of 3 was given to a road where the road markings have literally disappeared due to the road surface being totally worn away. Here you can see the road is so badly worn away, cat's eyes are like mini islands poking out of a long trough. It's clearly very dangerous and needs repairing. And finally, it's interesting to notice how tidy and consistent the writing is. It's obvious this was not completed whilst on the move, and that raises a lot more questions. How are observations being recorded en route? Where and when was this report actually completed? This handwritten report doesn't actually give any hard evidence that these inspections were carried out. There are no measurements, no references, no photos, no timestamps, there's nothing. And a report of this nature, a form filled in using pen and paper, is totally vulnerable and completely open to fraud. There are no digital fingerprints, no logs, no evidence, no data gathering, nothing. There's no timestamps, no date stamps. You watching this video now could create this form in Word, print it out, fill it out on your desk, scan it back in and claim that you have been out and inspected the roads. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happened here, but in my opinion this is not an acceptable way of recording an inspection. There are simply not enough control factors or evidence gathering data points. And this rocky foundation is where our whole tower starts to crumble, as in point 3, carry out necessary repairs in accordance with the policy recommendations, is simply and totally impossible. If you were given this report, you would assume there are no defects. After all, that's what the report says, and therefore no work to repair the road would be completed. Furthermore, when a claim is lodged, this report would indicate that an inspection was completed prior to your incident, and by law, the council will have fulfilled its legal obligation and is therefore not liable. There is, however, one final piece to this puzzle. Remember we mentioned Fix My Street. This should close the gap and provide a further level of protection. However, I've also found this is not the case. Here we can see reports being made about B4100. Multiple holes on the road are naturally causing multiple reports to be made. However, as we can also see here, some of these are being mistakenly categorised and therefore removed as duplicate reports, which raises 3 further questions. 1. Why are assumptions being made that multiple reports are duplicates? 2. Even if they were duplicates, why are these not being treated as a higher priority? Surely multiple reports should raise alarm bells. And finally, and most concerning, why, if in this hand do you have multiple reports from the public of multiple holes and defects, but in this hand you have an inspector report with 0 defects, are questions not being asked? And the real cherry on top of all of this? Once a hole is reported and the repair work is scheduled, you can't claim, as the council has a right to an acceptable period of time to repair the hole. In summary then, what should be a fairly simple and robust process of keeping Britain's roads safe is, in my opinion, nothing short of a massive cover-up. If you ever need to claim compensation, you have an almost impossible task of proving that the council was negligent in its duties. This is compounded by several what could be described as questionable layers of protection, made up of dubious inspections, rigid definitions, inaccurate paperwork and blind assumption. In my opinion, the process is as bad as the roads they are trying to manage. Layer after layer of shoddy patchwork that leaves us out of pocket. So what can you do? Put simply, you need to fight. If you hit a pothole, get evidence immediately. Photo, videos, measurements, as much as possible to prove without doubt this hole caused your damage. Apply apply for compensation. You might be lucky and get a payout, but do it quickly. If not, they should give you all of this information, and if they don't, request it. Get as much information as evidence as possible. At that point, go back and reject the decision. It has to go to another complaint handler, as a complaint is not closed. Also, start getting ready to go to the small claims court. Remember, you need to prove 3 things. 1. The pothole caused the damage. 2. They failed to maintain the required level of inspections. And 3. They didn't carry out the necessary repairs in accordance with the policy recommendations. If you can prove these 3 things, and with the right evidence, you might, just might, get some compensation. At the time of filming, I was still going through this process, some 6 months after I first logged my claim for compensation. So don't expect to get a response straight away, and don't expect it to be an easy battle. But I'm hoping that this video and the information I've discovered and shared with you will help you get the compensation that you rightly deserve. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please hit that thumbs up underneath. That really helps YouTube share it to more and more people, which will then hopefully help more people as well. If you have enjoyed it, also consider checking out the rest of my channel. It's full of loads of automotive stuff, usually far more upbeat than this. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful.